It had rained heavily the night before, the kind of rain that washes away footprints and memories. The villagers of Uminochi were still in shock. Neka, the kind-hearted wife of Odenigbo the Great, had been buried just yesterday beneath the Udola tree. The scent of incense still lingered in the air. Her white burial cloth was barely stained by earth. So, when a stranger in shiny anklets and a red waist wrapper walked boldly into Odenigbo's compound the next morning, people paused mid-speech. This was not mourning. This was mockery. Who was she? And why did Odenigbo smile? Marriage, someone gasped, barely believing the news. Yes. Odenigbo had married Ifunanya, a woman younger than Neka, just one day after her burial. The women at the stream dropped their calabashes. Even the elders, once fed fat on his kola nuts, grew restless. What kind of man weeps into the soil one day and weds the next? In the red-soiled village of Uminochi, where the palm trees whispered secrets and the moonlight guided hunters home, lived a man named Odenigbo. He was rich, not just in yams and lands, but in reputation. His barns overflowed, his goats fattened like well-fed chiefs, and his voice rang strong in every meeting of the elders. The villagers called him Odenigbo the Great. He had a wife named Neka, known for her soft-spoken nature and the kindness she carried like water in a calabash, graceful and careful. Their compound stood firm like a palace. People whispered that theirs was a marriage the gods themselves blessed. But what the eyes see during the day is not always what the moon sees at night. To the outside world, Odenigbo and Neka were perfect. He brought her gifts from his travels, golden earrings from Enugu, woven cloth from Arachuku. She knelt to serve him meals with respect. Their laughter echoed across the compound. Women told their daughters, marry like Neka. Be loved like her. Yet behind closed doors, things were not so smooth. Odenigbo had grown distant. His touch became rare, his words fewer. He often slept in his outer hut and returned smelling of strange perfumes. But Neka said nothing. She only prayed harder, hoping her husband's heart would return. Years before, Odenigbo and Neka had been a golden pair, at least in the eyes of the world. She was his quiet shadow, walking a few respectful steps behind. He built her a thatched prayer hut and called her, the goddess of my house. They never fought in public. Odenigbo gifted her coral beads and gold earrings, and on market days, he'd buy her whatever she admired, even if she never asked. To outsiders, it was love. To Neka, it was performance. What they didn't know was that behind the gates of that compound, silence grew like mold. Odenigbo was often absent. His food cold. His eyes wandered. And the woman he kissed in public, he ignored at night. Neka's illness came like the early rains, sudden, uninvited, and disruptive. No one understood. It started with fever, then chills, then weakness in her bones. Her once bright eyes dulled like faded cloth. A native doctor was summoned. He shook his head and whispered, "This illness is not ordinary." Her laughter faded. A native doctor said it was a spiritual sickness, perhaps worsened by sorrow. Odenigbo, in front of others, showed concern. He sent for herbs, cheap ones. He sighed loudly when the cost of proper medicine was mentioned. Odenigbo sighed and said, "Let her rest. God will heal her." But he still found money to buy a new walking stick and sponsor a dance group in the next village. Meanwhile, Neka coughed blood at night, her fingers trembling as she wrote her pain into a hidden journal. It was in that journal that the truth lived. Every night, while Odenigbo snored in another hut, Neka wrote, "He starves me of touch, of care, of dignity. Yet when the villagers see him, they praise him. They call me lucky. But I am a bird in a golden cage." I begged him for medicine. He laughed and walked away. He tells people he sleeps on the floor to keep vigil. But he has another woman. I have seen her bracelets in his wrapper. I have smelled her perfume on his skin. Neko never fought back. She just wrote and prayed. Until her body failed her. The village came out in full force to bury her. Women wailed. Men drank and poured libations. Odenigbo tore his wrapper and screamed so loudly that a goat ran off into the bush. He staggered in front of her grave. Take me instead. She was my heart. But the gods knew the truth. His cries were crocodile tears, loud, but shallow. That very night, before the ground above her grave had settled, he sent for Ifinanya. The very next day, before the rooster crowed a second time, Odenigbo brought a woman into the compound. Her name was Ifinanya, young, bold, with eyes that danced and a voice that snapped like fresh firewood. The villagers stared. What is this? One elder asked. She is only here to keep the compound clean, Odenigbo lied. But that evening, kola nuts were broken, drinks were poured, and a marriage was declared. One day after burying Neka, Odenigbo remarried. The village buzzed like bees around fresh palm wine. Did you see her waist? So tiny. How can a man marry while his wife's grave is still fresh? But he cried so much. Maybe he was just lonely. But that woman, she smiles too much. Even the children felt something was wrong. But Odenigbo gave gifts, kola nuts, cloth, salt. Slowly, voices quieted. The village tried to forget. But the land remembers. At first, Ifinanya was perfect. She greeted elders with bent knees, fetched water for the old widow nearby, laughed sweetly, and wore the finest wrappers. The children in the compound called her auntie. Odenigbo looked happy again. But soon, strange things began to happen. Ifinanya began shouting at servants. She slapped a young maid for dropping water. She took money from Odenigbo and returned with perfumes and bracelets. She no longer bent to greet elders. She walked as if the ground owed her. Odenigbo ignored all of it. She's still young, he said. The compound grew cold. The laughter faded. Neka's absence became loud. Ifinanya was everything Neka was not: bold, flashy, and loud. She wore red lipstick to the stream. Her voice pierced the calm like thunder through dry leaves. She greeted no one with respect, yet Odenigbo doted on her like a man cursed with infatuation. She ordered servants around. She mocked Neka's memory. I'm the new queen, she said one night, holding Odenigbo's head in her lap. Forget the ghost of the weak one. But Uminachi had ears. The gossip grew. Did you see him dance at her funeral, then wed at dusk? He is hiding something. How did Ifinanya arrive so quickly? Were they already in love before Neka died? Even children began to chant songs by his gate. He cried in the morning and danced at night. Now he's married and it doesn't feel right. One day, Mama Ugoma returned from her son's house in Onitsha. She was Neka's childhood friend. When she visited Odenigbo's compound, she asked to see Neka's old hut. It had not been touched since the burial. Inside, beneath a mat, she found the wrapped journal. She opened it. Page after page. Lie after lie. Pain after pain. Her hands trembled. The village must hear this, she whispered. That night, Mama Ugoma couldn't sleep. Neka's words tore through her heart. He starves me but feeds another. He only cries when people are watching. I'm dying, but he's living elsewhere. Mama Ugoma cried. Then she walked to the elder's hut with the journal in hand. The talking drum summoned everyone. Under the great Iroko tree, the journal was read aloud. Page by page, the truth unraveled. Gasps echoed. Women wept. Men looked away in shame. Children watched in silence. Odenigbo arrived, sweating. He tried to speak. But words dried on his tongue. Odenigbo stood beside Ifinanya. She fidgeted. He sweated. This cannot be true, someone whispered. But her handwriting, we've all seen it before. She wrote it with her last strength. The lies fell apart like poorly tied wrappers. Odenigbo's image crumbled. The crowd that once sang his praise now turned their backs. The next morning, Ifunanya disappeared. She took Odenigbo's gold, his wrappers, and 2 of his servants. She left behind a note. A fool's heart is a market. I came. I bought. I left. Odenigbo's health crumbled. He stopped attending meetings. Weeds covered his compound. His goats grew thin. Servants left one by one. He sat alone, talking to himself. A once mighty lion now reduced to a groaning shadow. At night, he dreamed of Neka, silent, staring, walking slowly in white. He heard Ifunanya's laughter echoing. He saw villagers pointing, whispering, singing. He woke up screaming, but no one came. Village children sang. He cried at dawn. Married at dusk. Lied to all. Now he's lost his luck. They sang it as they played. They sang it by his gate. They sang it even at the stream. Shame became his second skin. The elders declared, let this be a lesson to all men who wear mourning as a disguise. Odenigbo's name was removed from honor rolls. His stories were no longer told with pride. His downfall was used to teach newlyweds about truth, loyalty, and pride. Years later, Mama Ugama sat under a mango tree, surrounded by children. She told the story of Odenigbo the Great, the man who cried in the morning and remarried by night. She ended with a proverb. The lizard that nods too much will one day break its neck.